Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we have something very different. So as you can tell from the title of this video, it is a mod review, but this is something for immersion's sake, which I feel is very important, especially with a setting like Warhammer. So as you can tell, I'm on a vanilla campaign for the Empire right now, and one thing that's always bothered me about stuff like this is that the world isn't really truly represented. If we look through Reichland, yes, there's 4 settlements, which are the playable ones, but there's supposed to be more. This is a very large area. We've seen it through maps implemented by Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and so on, and it doesn't feel like a fleshed out world. It feels like you go from Grunberg to Outdoor, for example, and that's all you're going to see. Now, this isn't only for the Empire, but it's also the case for many other places in the Warhammer Fantasy world. But now there's a new mod that changes that. This is called Dynamic Worlds, and what you can see is that the world is littered with new houses and so on, farmlands, different bits of bobs depending on what race and faction you're playing. And it's really cool because this makes the world feel way more alive. This doesn't just affect the Empire, this affects pretty much everyone. You can see on the way to the Marienburg settlement, there are loads of houses there because Marienburg is obviously quite a populated area. The wasteland itself has a lot of different peoples and so on. And even, say for example, the Black Pit, which is historically run by orcs and goblins. Well, that itself now has a more dead tree approach because obviously the greenskins themselves aren't taking care of the forest area. They're causing a lot of damage, so that is going to be represented as such. But that's not all this mod does. You see, if we start playing with Bretonnia, for example, we've got some undead, we've got some vampire counts in this area, and obviously you can see some ruins and so on. So we start getting rid of them, which is obviously something that you're going to be able to do from the beginning of your campaign, and then start taking care of the settlement, bringing it back to the living. That area will now start to look better. Buildings will start popping up and trees will return. It's obviously something which hasn't got a lot of vampiric corruption from the very beginning because obviously it's how this campaign works. It's just to kind of get you used to fighting your first battle, taking your first settlement, and then you can start dealing with stuff like vampiric corruption, chaos corruption, all that different type of stuff. So what this mod will do is make you feel more immersed as you're taking over the world. You're going to start to notice more scenery popping up. Even if you aren't that zoomed in, it's just going to be something nice, visually cool on the eyes. It's not just trees, and more trees. Like, for example, here again, we are with the High Elves, you know? It's looking nice and populated, as Orth 1 is obviously where the highest concentration of High Elves do exist. The grand majority of them live in their homeland. So you will notice loads of houses, statues, you know, making Orth 1 feel like the High Elven kingdom that it is. And obviously, when you've got Dark Elves here, so the ones that start out fighting against Tyrion, there's going to be some basic tents of the Dark Elves, which once you take over the area, once you actually kick them out of the region, that's replaced. And again, this is really important for the case of immersion. Immersion is so important for a Warhammer game. Not only that, but I'd say that this is very important for Total War games. You're building empires, you're taking over the world or a country, and this just adds a little bit more. It's granted, yes, a lot of people might not notice it, but I'd say that this is something which a lot of people can appreciate. Now, some stuff can be a bit more subtle, but what I'm going to do here is turn off the fog of war. Keep in mind some frame drops can happen considering that, yeah, it's loading everything in the game. But I gotta tell you, it's quite impressive because some stuff can be quite subtle, yet it does feel like it's part of a natural progression of your campaign. If we talk over the features that can be found in this mod, I can tell you the following. So remove all shrub and grass from the campaign map and use each individual race asset and replace them with it. Modified the forestry of each small and large tree to make it more unique to the specific race. Human races are added houses to seem like they are occupying the region, which obviously makes sense when you're talking about humans who are known to be quite expansionist. Chaos and demon races, no more trees or only added dead trees, and their own each individual unique region traits are added. So this would be like, say for example, corn having some forges and so on. And obviously the forestry will change depending on the race, and non-human races will no longer have houses. Instead, the houses that you would normally see are completely destroyed. You know, they're ruined shacks and so on. I think this is really cool. There's little details for all the other races, like the greenskins. They have their trees being a bit, you know, deadish, a lot of dung in the area tends to. The lizard men have temples and more trees around them. Wood elves would naturally spawn trees, more trees and more trees, but then again, that's what they do. The vampire counts have cemeteries around the areas. It's just to make this area feel a bit more fleshed out. Kind of more like Grand Cafe. You see, Grand Cafe in vanilla is probably the most fleshed out area because it just looks so heavily detailed compared to a lot of other places. This is something that we really should see in vanilla. Thankfully, mods do fix that, but it's something that we need to see not just in Warhammer, but pretty much every single Total War. It's immersion, which is important. Obvious in some places, but subtle in others. You can already see here with the corn getting some stuff in the Badlands. It just fits, right? You know, this is opening up the area. Obviously, corruption would come into play afterwards and further enhance that. But it's just so good, and it looks like it fits really, really well. Again, a lot of people aren't going to notice it too much, but when you're spending so much time on this game, if you're one of those players who has hundreds or possibly even thousands of hours like myself, it's definitely something which just makes it feel more alive. The Warhammer Fantasy world is huge. The Immortal Empires map is not the true scale of this map. Put it this way, if it was true scale, Reichland, which in Warhammer 3 has 4 settlements, you know, Altdorf, Ubersreich and so on, would actually have like 20, if not a little bit more. Some maps do differ depending on the source and edition, but there's a lot of towns, castles, fortresses and so on, which we unfortunately don't get to see, which is a massive shame. So getting that detail added in a little bit just makes it feel more like what we know from the lore itself. Yeah, sure, we're never going to get a true lore representation of stuff. Hell, Altdorf itself doesn't really look like Altdorf, the actual map. But just some additions to the world just, again, makes it really, really cool. I've been playing a campaign and I've been really, really enjoying this. I very, very much doubt that this is ever going to leave my load order now. It's going to have a permanent spot, that's for sure. The mod itself hasn't been on the workshop for long. It was released on the 10th, so only 4 days ago, and it's already been getting updates, which I think is going to be a good thing, because as all mods on the workshop, especially stuff like this, they get better as time progresses. Not only that, but future DLC could potentially bring in new assets, right? And that could be used to further enhance this mod. This is the great thing about those types of DLCs. We have seen it in the past. Anyways, if you want to try out the mod yourself, you can find it linked in the description below, and believe me, it's going to make your campaign feel a lot better. Again, it doesn't change anything for gameplay, it's purely immersion, but it's definitely something that you're going to want if you want to feel more like you're overseeing the rise of a nation within the Warhammer Fantasy world. But yeah, links in the below. Let me know what you think about the mod in the comments below, and let's have a bit of a discussion. I do apologize if I sound a little tired. I've not slept well for the past 3-4 days, and it's catching up on me. I'm going to be taking the rest of today to just rest up a little bit. Have a nice day, guys, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.